Hi, everybody. My name is Margie Geiser. I'm an education volunteer with JewishGen, and I have with me today Barbara Rice, and we're going to talk about research in Galicia. Hi, Barbara. How you doing today?
Hi, Margie. I'm doing really well, even though it snowed here yesterday.
Oh my, well, we're supposed to get snow this weekend, so I get it. Yeah, here
Screw
we are,
snow.
folks, in April, but oh well. Anyway, so a common problem that we all have, especially when we're starting out, is we'll start researching our people closer to maybe where we are. And as we start going further back, we then start getting into challenges. And so, can you give a brief overview of what this course?
Sure. This class is intended to help students find vital records for ancestors who lived in Galicia or Galician lands, a geographic area that was part of the Austrian Empire through World War One. And the major resources that we will be using are JewishGen databases, of course, because we are JewishGen Education, and then our partner websites, Gesher Galicia, JRI Poland, the Polish Archives, which is not a partner of JewishGen, but Roots to Roots Foundation and Family Search. And we will also utilize some additional resources that are available online.
All right, okay. So at Jewish Gen Education, we're really proud of our online classes, and specifically the way our online classes combine building our students' geological research skills, say that real fast, and individualized research guidance. So, can you describe how this works?
Um, Sure. The class offers the opportunity for students to pursue guided research for a single family branch or surname using all the resources I mentioned. And to facilitate communication between the student and the instructor, myself, we recommend a format for documenting and organizing and sharing the research. Um, you have to have some kind of organization. It does have to make sense to the student, or you're really not going to get anywhere. So there, we do try to teach a format for organization that we think works and hope that the students like it. But there are many formats, and any organizational format that appeals can work. Um, we recommend and help students with setting a goal for the project and specific achievable research questions. And really, it's a way for students to apply the search strategies that I'm introducing in the class or the websites to look for their own ancestors and to get guidance in interpreting documents they find. Is this my family or not? What evidence do you have that this is the right document for your family? Help with translations. JewishGen can help with that using ViewMate and so on.
Okay, and so you probably covered a little bit of this, but what else can students expect to learn in this course?
I would say the focus of this class is genealogical research, using the major online resources to research families living in Galicia. In other words, the aim is for the student to find information about their ancestral family through documents, vital records, and other documents if they exist. In addition to gaining familiarity with both indexed and unindexed online resources, like some of them are books, you have to browse through them. Nobody's put a database online. So we have some of that. Students will learn how to discover what records exist for a town, where the records are located, and how to contact an archive about records that are not online. That's kind of the big question for everybody. What is not in the class very much is what was life like in Galicia? That's historical research of a different nature. I can recommend some resources, some books to read. It's not a focus of the class. Instead, I'm going to use a couple of case studies of my own research to illustrate search strategies and how to find information. And students can expect to learn what resources are available on the target websites and how to use those resources effectively. And I also want to say that while membership in these organizations is not required, each one has wonderful, unique resources available only to their members, along with the resources they make available freely to all. So membership in both JRI Poland and Gesher Galicia can be very valuable to a researcher with ancestors in Galicia, along with, of course, Jewish Gen.
All right. So who is the course for?
It's for students with ancestors in Galicia who have researched their family extensively in the new country and are hoping to learn about their ancestors' vital records in Galicia. The student who has researched extensively in the new country has clues from their ancestors' documents about their Galician roots. You should have your ancestral surname and town of origin, and the town of origin should be in Galicia to participate in the class. And I
So
can
that brings up, I'm
give as
sorry.
a little teaser that those records in the new country are important. The 1900 and 1910 census asked a woman how many children she's had and how many are still living. And because of those answers, I have found family members that I didn't know about. Why? Because they died as children in the old country, but birth and death records are there available. I would not necessarily have found those without that hint from the census.
Oh, that brings so many other good points up that we could talk about, but we'll stick on task here. So are there any prerequisites? In other words, do they need any kind of experience?
Well, the stated prerequisite for the class is family surname and town of origin in Galicia. Um, a student who doesn't have their original surname and ancestral town of origin is just at a big disadvantage. They won't be able to follow searches recommended in class without that information. Maybe you know from family lore that your family was from a specific town in Galicia. That is enough information to participate in class. However, confirming the ancestral town with passenger records and naturalizations, military records can be time consuming, and it's not taught in this class. Jewish Gen has other classes that teach how to get that information. A student who needs support locating passenger records or other documentation of ancestral name and town should consider a class where this is taught or the individual mentoring that we offer. And lastly, I would say that familiarity using Jewish Gen's website is helpful in the Galicia class. It's also helpful to have experience in transcribing or abstracting documents. And I mean by that reading a document closely, writing down all the relevant information. Um, Again, students get guidance with this. They get guidance with interpretation and analysis if they ask for it. But it's not a skill that is specifically taught.
Right. Okay. So can you talk a little bit about how the class is structured?
It's structured around, this class is going to be structured around case studies and guided research using the named resources. Gesher Galicia, JRI Poland, Jewish Gen, Polish Archives. We're using Canvas as our online platform for communication between the students and the instructor. There are written materials and short videos available to read and view anytime, and we will have weekly Zoom discussion time around each resource and using it on Wednesday afternoons from 1 to 2 p.m. Central Time.
All right. So is there anything that we haven't mentioned that you'd like to add?
Yes. Unfortunately, there is no guarantee that you will find vital records for your ancestors in Galicia. Some places in Galicia have many records existing, others have few to none. And while new resources are constantly coming online and even being discovered in archives, it is important to remember that the end result of a class could be new information about your ancestors, or it could be that you have looked everywhere for records and the information you are seeking is not available in documents. Getting to the proverbial genealogical dead end is always a disappointment, and unfortunately, it's a possibility. Um, With that said, I cannot recall a single student over the 5 years I've taught this class who has found no information at all on their family. And at the same time, when I took this class, I was researching a branch of my family in a town for which there is one book of births. That's it, one book. 1832 to 1860. The ancestor whose name I know was born in 1865. In fact, I went through that entire book. It's not that long. There are only 3 examples of my surname in it. And there's nothing definitive to tie it to my family. And that is because in this country, when my great great grandfather was buried, his father's name is not on his headstone. And so I really can't go back further. Yes, and no siblings known of that. So in the end, I was at a dead end, and yet I learned so much about researching in the class, and I would hope that students learn about using the site, the various websites, more about genealogical research.
Absolutely. Well, this sounds really great. So I want to thank you, Barbara, for talking to me about the course
Of
and letting
course.
people know what the course is all about. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the course or to register, go to the Jewish Gen website under Education and click the link. And let me show you. I'm going to share so people can see what I'm talking about here. Is on the home page. You'll go into Learn, and then you can go into online classes. And then if you scroll down, what I generally do, you can pick the person. And so at this point in time, we're talking about Barbara Rice. And scroll down, and here's the class. And you can just click to register the class.